Hey everybody, I am Erica Carlson with Bricks Real Estate, and I am bringing the local real estate market data for anybody who is thinking about buying a house in the near future, or if you are a homeowner and you don't have to necessarily be thinking about selling to benefit from this information. So without further ado, let me share my screen. So real quick, before I get into the data of the week, if you are looking for something very local, meaning like a half mile, 1 mile radius from your house, I am happy to supply that information. Obviously, I can't do this in the video. That wouldn't make any sense since this is, I don't even know the reach. I'm on YouTube here. I'm on different social media channels, so I'm not sure how you're finding me. So if you click the link, it'll bring up Buffalo, St. Michael, Delano, and Rockford. I already have those cities set up. But again, I can narrow it down further for you. And I can do this for investment properties you might have, maybe your parents' house, if maybe there's a reason you're watching that or something like that. So I can do this around any address you're willing to supply. And so if you click the link, I can customize that for you. And then of course, if you're just looking to connect with me and you're not sure how to do that, my information is there. I'd love to have you follow me on like my Facebook or my Instagram. I'm always happy to have your company. So digging into my favorite data, we're looking at October 4th, which is of course today. And if you look over the last 3 weeks, there just hasn't been a lot of changes for the showings per week per listing in that 250 to 500K range. Same with Hennepin. I mean, we've seen kind of a very slow decline on Hennepin. So let's convert that to real talk because decimals and numbers don't make sense without context, of course. So this is the showings per week per listing. Of course, I'm averaging an entire county to get this number. So if I drill down on, like, let's say a very particular city or a particular type of property, which I love to do this for my home sellers that I'm, assisting, then the data can get different, right? Like if I'm just looking at townhouses or we're just looking at lakefront, of course, this data changes. So take that with a grain of salt. And then what I'm ultimately saying here, especially if you've never seen my videos before, it's 2 to 3 showings per week, both in Wright County and in Hennepin. So what it's telling me is that Hennepin's moving just a hair faster than Wright County. So I don't think if you were selling a house and you had a buddy in Hennepin and you're in Wright, and I think if you were talking about your showing activity, if you were seeing a difference, I don't think it's because of location at this point. When it's this close, it's telling me this is just the way of things between interest rates. And we have to talk about the elephant in the room. We know where they are. We know they're impacting us. We know there's other elements like the season, right? Now the leaves, I'm looking outside, they're starting to change. Some of the trees are getting awfully bare. This is influencing people's willingness to make a move. And remember, anybody who lists a house right now that we're in October, they're most likely not moving until November or December because it takes a while to sell a house, not just for finding a buyer, but then by the time they close. So I think a lot of people are starting to pull back on their desire to move, which is very normal. And I would predict it'll pick up again in January. When you look at average days on market, I'm just looking across my screen here, yep, it's slowing down a little bit. And I am looking at very particular data to get that number. So if you're a real estate agent and you're watching this and you're wondering where I'm getting that number, I'm pulling it from pending sales, which is giving me something a lot more accurate than what MAR or SPAR would be giving me because their stuff is always behind. All right, so now when we look at actives, TNAS stands for temporarily not available, pendings and closing. Okay, so interesting. The listings continue to just kind of pull up. We have still more choice than we've seen in a long time. However, if we take the properties out with contingencies, again, it hits a hair down and we're talking like tiny little details. Like no one's going to notice that there's 5 less houses for sale right now. Or I don't think you'd experience that because again, we're looking at the entire county and nobody says every price point and every type of property is for me. So all those little green dots don't actually represent all of your choices because there's, variance, can't speak, variances is what I'm trying to say. Pending definitely bounced down to 246 from 273, and then you'll see closings came down. So when I saw that number go under 200, it grabbed my attention. I went all the way back to Memorial Day weekend to find that number. That week or weekend was when interest rates hit 7%. So that was a very, that was like a week that really jumps out. If you look at the data over every week, it's like Memorial Day weekend stood out as like, well, what happened here? What we knew is that the showing activity was about the same as this time. However, the pendings were much higher because they were coming out of that March, April purchasing time. So it really wasn't apples to apples. If you're wondering, well, why is she pointing out like 189 being significant? It's not necessarily. It's just that we haven't had anything under 200 all summer. Like we just haven't seen that number in a really long time. And so it just shows you that there are less people out there shopping. I mean, like everything is just showing you competition is very low if you're a home shopper. And so while, people are coming with different opinions about whether it's a good time to shop, from the attitude, from a point of view, in my humble opinion, when inventory is high and not a lot of people out there house shopping, this is your chance to stay out of multiple offers. This is your chance to potentially get some other components to your offer that we haven't been able to see in a long time. So let's look at one more piece of data, and I'm going to kind of skip over this one quickly this week. This is just talking about absorption rate. So I think we'll skip over this because this is more interesting. So I've shared this data with you one other time. This is from a company that's a transaction coordinator company. If you don't know what that means, I wouldn't expect you to unless you're a real estate agent. What they do is they do the paperwork for real estate agents that won't get into the why, but they do. And so they can track data. What I like about this is one individual agent wouldn't possibly help enough buyers write offers to have enough data to pull from. However, a company that provides a service now actually has more data. The problem is I don't know how many offers this is. And what I want to point out is the information you're seeing on the screen is accepted offers. So we have to assume there were other offers that were written that, they threw to the side and didn't collect the data. So let's go through this quickly. 25% of the time for this company alone, people were waiving inspections. So, I guess I don't have like the before and after kind of data for you, but it's interesting. There's still people waiving inspections because some people just don't want them or don't need them. There's different reasons for that. 3% of the time people are buying houses before they hit the MLS or the market. 24% of the time is cash, which is up. Conventional 61%, that's about normal. FHA is higher at 12% and VA is at 2%. FHA and VA for a long time have been on the lower side, not because there's anything wrong with those loan products. They just tend to be lower because cash and conventional will a lot of times beat out an FHA or a VA borrower or person buying a house. Average price to list is 99.2 and median is 100. So let's convert that to English, which means people are getting houses under the asking price, which no surprise. Again, if there's no competition, you're not going into multiple offers. House has been sitting for a while. Of course, some people are going to take advantage of that and ask for less than full price. And side note, and I hope you're still listening because this is important. Asking price is all it is. It's just an asking price. It doesn't mean it is the price. You're determining the price when you buy a house. So buyers are ultimately telling the folks, this is what it's worth. So don't get too hung up on asking price. Have your real estate agent run what's called a CMA, run comps, make sure that the price is fair. I know people don't want to always hear this, but real estate agents will tell their buyers, because that's who we're representing, hey, this one's overpriced. This has been sitting on the market for a long time. They run the numbers and go, hey, this person's 50,000 over, approximately where it should be for this neighborhood. That does impact you when you're selling a house. If you're asking too much, people will point it out and notice. All right, moving on. Seller contribution towards buyer's closing cost, 27%. Okay, so again, English means 27% of the time people are getting some closing costs paid for by the seller. So if you're selling a house, you need to predict that 30%, 25% of the time, you might be getting asked that question. You need to predict that. You need to include that in your overall what you're going to make. Because if they need that help, they need that help. Now, sometimes they're just asking to ask. Again, a good real estate agent's going to help you navigate that. Home warranties included 8% of the time. That's up a little bit. A lot of people have skipped home warranties over the years. There's pros and cons to those. Definitely ask your agent what those are. We won't get into that today. Contingent on the sale of a buyer's home, only 6%. That really surprises me. And the reason why, just anecdotally in my little world, almost everybody I'm meeting needs to sell a house to buy a house. And a lot of times people right now that I'm meeting, I think I told you this last week, are not making the move is because they're nowhere near ready to sell their house. They haven't even thought about it. All they're doing is they're in what I call dreamland, dream mode, where they're thinking about what they want to buy. They have dreams of what they're going to do. I'm going to buy this lakefront property. And then you say, well, do you need to sell your house? Yep, I need to sell my house. Are you ready to sell your house? Absolutely not. So if you're selling and you're getting frustrated that you're not getting offers, it's because there's a lot of people out there dreaming right now and thinking about how to do things, but they're not really ready to take that plunge. And that is what we're feeling like when I talk to other agents. A lot of people are seeing this kind of thinking, processing, but not really ready to do anything. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this spring. And I think just for the sake of not going too long, I'm not going to read the rest of this to you. But if you don't know what an escalation clause is or an appraisal gap is, I'm happy to give you the education on those terms, but let's save that for another day, as I'm obviously talking very quickly, and I apologize for that. But I'm also trying not to bore people. So having a little problem with my screen here. Again, my name is Erica Carlson. If you made it to the end, I absolutely appreciate you. I'm always here for you as a local agent that you can rely on and reach out to. And I'm happy to have a quick phone call with you, meet for coffee. If you want an idea of what your house could sell for in today's market or an idea of what it would be like this spring, I'd be happy to talk to you about the pros and cons of all those decisions. If there's a house you want to see, let's talk about it. iHeartMPLS or MinneapolisHomes.com is my website. I do partner with my husband, so I have a backup if I ever get too busy or need him. I'd love to introduce you to Scott as well. Thank you for making it to the end. Have a great week.